Welcome to Living Lit, where conversations spark inspiration to live in truth. Journey together with us to explore what it means to live a liturgical life and walk in the truth of our faith. Let's instill a culture in our hearts, homes, families, and world, living a life cooperating with and walking alongside our Lord. I'm Robin Brueggemann. Let's be a light, share the light, shine the light, and live lit. Well, friends, welcome back to Living Lit. I have a very special guest with me on today. Today, we're going to pull up a chair at the Catholic table with author Emily Stimpson Chapman. Emily has a brand new cookbook out called Around the Catholic Table, and it's so much more than recipes, you guys. It is such a neat book. It's an invitation into the heart of hospitality. So hospitality is what we're going to talk about today. Hospitality is something we all long for and need. It's what makes our homes warm, our friendships deep, and it can really make our faith tangible, living on the faith journey with our friends and family. And as Catholics, it's a reflection of the Eucharist, the great feast where Christ welcomes us to his table. So in our conversation with Emily, we are going to chat about hospitality. Why does it matter so much? What makes it uniquely Catholic? And some beautiful practical ways that we can foster it in our homes without stress, without perfection, and with great joy. Doesn't that sound inviting? Yes. So Emily knows about hospitality. She has seen its power to build community, stave off loneliness, and fill homes with joy. But she knows, too, that many of us are intimidated by the challenges of hospitality, like budgets, babies, and busyness, just to name a few. Emily is an award-winning Catholic author of over a dozen books, including The Catholic Table, Finding Joy Where Food and Faith Meet, These Beautiful Bones, An Everyday Theology of the Body, The Story of All Stories, Children's Story Bible coming soon, and a series of children's books that she has co-authored with Scott Hahn. Emily lives in Steubenville, Ohio with her husband, Chris, and her 3 sweet children. Emily, welcome to Living Lit.
It is so nice to be here with you.
Oh,
I wish I was there in person, but
I know. Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
You
Yes.
never know what God has in mind. And Emily, I have to tell you too, is so gracious. I had a couple technology hiccups, and Emily is extremely gracious, and it fits right in with you being hospitable.
Well, it's just maximum flexibility. There's maximum flexibility at this point in life. So
Yeah.
with 3 little kids, there's just no other way to live. So
Yeah. Well, Emily, will you share some more about yourself with our listeners, to anybody who may not be familiar with you?
yeah, so I am a wife, a mom of 3 little ones. And a writer. I have been a writer a lot longer than I've been a wife and a mother. I married later in life than I would have liked to or ever thought I would. And when my husband and I did marry, babies did not come as fast as we would have liked them to. They actually didn't come at all until we opened the window to adoption. And then I always say God was just like waiting for me to open that window. Then he started chucking them in as fast, babies as fast as I could catch them. We adopted 3 babies all at birth in a span of 2.5 years. And our youngest 2 were just 8 months apart. So it was a super wild season. And it's still a wild season, just in a different way, because our youngest 2 are like virtual twins. And man, I used to pray for twins, and now I wonder what the holy heck was I thinking? They just like multiply chaos. They feed bad ideas off of each other all day long. It's adorable. They love each other so much. They'll tell people they're twins, which is super funny because one is black and one is white. And people will be like, and I'm just like, genetics are freaky. I don't know. But it is sweet and precious, but it's nuts. And in the midst of all of that, I write a lot, and we host people a lot. And it's just a busy revolving door of books and people and babies and renovations.
Renovations, yes. I remember. So you've actually been a speaker at a women's conference here in the Sioux Falls Diocese, where my home is. And you were here during the Great Blizzard Women's Conference that everybody's like, oh, yes, the Blizzard one, right? And that is something I remember so much about you is renovations. So would you consider yourself a DIYer? Because I think you had even showed pictures of whatever house you were renovating at that time.
So would you
Yeah,
consider
I did. I
yourself
had a
a
whole talk about
DIYer?
lessons, spiritual lessons I learned from renovating my houses. So I used to be more of a DIYer when there was more time. Now I'm more of a PAYer. I just pay people to do it. We have our contractor used to come from Steubenville to Pittsburgh when we lived in Pittsburgh to fix up our
Wow.
house. And now that we've moved to Steubenville, he actually just lives directly across the street from
Oh,
us.
that's handy.
It's so convenient because we're fixing up this house too. But no, I love making houses, old houses that are falling down and in terrible condition. I love making them beautiful and whole again and what they
Oh.
were meant to be. And I always feel like that's an act of participation in what God does with us. And you learn a lot about yourself and your marriage, but about the human soul as you go about fixing up old houses. So,
Oh.
but this is my last one. I'm done, 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 done. I will
Are
die in this house.
you? Oh,
I know
wow.
where the elevator is going to go. Like, I have planted my flag here and I shall not move.
There's probably something really comforting about that, I bet, isn't there? Like if you're like, okay, this is our place. We're staying put. Like we
Yes, like
live
I'm
on.
like, will the house to the children type of, I do not want to cook. Like, just keep the furniture, keep the china. It'll all be good.
Oh, I love that. So I feel like that is connected to your hospitality. You have such a gift of hospitality. And I know you've written on many different topics and in many different places, your books, but also Catholic publications and newspapers and different things and magazines. And I feel like, as I've heard you speak and listening to you now, that you talking about like really making your house your home, like restoring it and making it yours fits. It's so complementary to being hospitable.
Well, I mean, a home is meant to be shared. I think
Oh,
we've gotten into this attitude and it's been something that's been coming on for a long time in American culture. But COVID probably put the pedal to the metal on it, where we think of home as a place to retreat from the world. Like we go out into the world, but our home is a place where we get to be alone and be down and be off, which it is. But ultimately, a home is meant to be in service of friendship and life and community. And because we were between struggle with infertility and my long single years, I really understood that the church's call to openness to life was not just a call to babies. Like it was a call to be open to other people, a call to welcome people in, to love people, to care for them, to lay those foundations of community that we so desperately need to live a full human life. And that's what homes are meant to be in the service of. And a home is not really a home unless you're making welcoming others into it. Like that's a place, giving people a place where they can be safe and themselves and welcome. Like that's a home is a tool, it's a gift, and it's meant for others. It's not meant to be sort of uh, you know, I don't know. It's not an isolated cave.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a welcoming cottage.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Like
that. A
that's the
welcoming
goal.
cottage. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I think that is going to be really helpful for people to hear, to look at your house differently, your home differently, that it isn't. Because I think we can get hung up in if maybe our gift isn't hospitality or we have some fears holding us back from being hospitable. The invitation to open up the home, that it isn't just for us. That's just beautiful. That's so beautiful. And as I've watched your journey through the years, you have so beautifully been hospitable through your life, right? So like as a single person, like I've read, so your book that kind of is a prelude to your cookbook is this one, right? The
Yes,
Catholic Table.
that's for the theology of it all. Yes.
Yeah, which is such a good book. And our friends at Emmaus Road Publishing and the St. Paul Center who produced both of these. But I love how, like you talked about, like you grew up with some hospitality, like a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up. So my parents, I was born and raised in the same town where my parents were born and raised. Their families were all there. Their best friends were their friends from grade school and high school. My mom's best friend married my dad's best friend. I mean, so
Oh,
there's these very tight networks of friendship and family, and so it was the most natural thing in the world that we'd go to parties at my parents' best friends' houses. Like there was always a whole gang party. There was something going on. And my parents they weren't quite like me because I meet a person, I'm like, come to dinner. So they were just extending random dinner invitations to every new person who crossed their path. But it was a very open, hospitable, communal life. And it was a great example to me of, because my father passed away 2 years ago. My mother has Alzheimer's disease. And as we've gone through these losses and declines, seeing their friends who are there with them, who are in the hospital with them, who are visiting my mother even when she can't remember that they visited, like that type of community is not built through just seeing each other at the office or, going to the occasional party once a year at someone's house. Like that's built through everyday, vulnerable, in your home interactions where your friends see your mess. They see you losing your temper with your kids and they know about your fight with your spouse and your messy bathroom. Like that's where that kind of friendship grows from. And we're such a profoundly lonely culture. And so I feel blessed that I had that example from my parents to help me know that, all right, this is how I want to live my life. I want to live it in a way that I'm building thick community that's going to endure, you know, long, long after I may not remember my name. So.
Yeah. And then you carried that into your life, through your single years and now into your married years and then into your family. And so that's like just beautiful that you did learn that gift from your parents. And I think I read somewhere where it's like a family charism. That's like what that
Yeah,
you do as a family, like your.
Yeah, I mean, my sisters don't love hosting, but they do. There's a lot of anger at me. They're like, "Why are you not back in Rock Island?" Because my family's in Illinois. They're like, "You could be hosting all the holidays." When we go back, we have to stay at an Airbnb now because my parents don't have a house. But they're always like, "Can we have dinner at your Airbnb?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." So I think what is different though is that I have a deep and abiding faith, and my sister's faith is not as deep or as formed as mine is. And so the natural example that my parents set for us has been graced with a supernatural understanding of community and faith. And I had to work harder because I wasn't home. I haven't been home since I left for high school. So I had to learn, okay, this is how you build community. This is how you have to be intentional about it. This is what you do even when it's hard. And so between having to work harder at it and then understanding the deep spiritual significance of hospitality and knowing that, Jesus commands it. He's not like, hey, if you've got a gift for hospitality, host. But he's like, we're not going to support widows who don't practice hospitality. Like the requirement for a bishop was that he showed hospitality. It was a demand. It was a commandment that was put on the church in the New Testament. So like knowing all of that, I've taken what I was given and done a lot more with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But it sounds like you, as far as you raising your kiddos now, even though they're young, it sounds like from your reading in your book now, your newest book, your cookbook, and the pictures I get to see too that you have in your book that are so beautiful. It's like your whole family is, it's not like just you going, okay, I'm just going to have my girlfriends over for a Bible study and that's about it. Like you are opening up your home with your husband, with your kiddos, and you are inviting other families in with their kiddos. So I imagine that is creating a very special culture in your home then, just like yours was when you said you were, your parents were having their friends over, or you were at their place, and now you're repeating that with your kiddos. And like, I just love that. It's encompassing the whole family in that way is so beautiful.
My husband and I got married. Because as a single woman, I practice hospitality all the time. We had a weekly dinner with friends. Everyone came over to my house, and it was always married friends, single friends, friends with lots of babies, friends with one baby. I found that as a single woman, one of the ways to live my happiest, most joyful single life was to make sure that I was in contact with families. Like I wanted to be around children. I wanted to be around friends who were married, and I needed to go out of my way to make that possible. Like, let me make my home child friendly. Like, let me make everything, let me love on your children so that you can have a break. Like it was, so that was a big part of my single life. And then when we married, my husband loved that about me. And he's like, yes, I think we really, as a couple, like that's a call we have to take seriously, is to practice hospitality. And now our kids, that's all they know. And they're beautifully gracious. They love welcoming people in. They love introducing them to their games. They love showing them their house. Sometimes my son is like offering to give people a tour, and I'm like, not the bedrooms. One time, I think he must have been 3 years old. We were sitting at our old house at the island. And my friend was over in the afternoon, and she was hanging out with me. And little 3-year-old Toby saw there was like a open bottle of, not like open, like a half empty bottle of wine from the night before or something. And he said to my friend, he goes, "Wine, Christina?" And like, he's like offering her wine because he's just like, well, that's what mom does when people come in the door. She's like, "Can I get you a glass of wine? Can I get you some coffee?" So they don't know anything else.
Yeah, it's so natural.
It's so natural. And it's a blessing that God gave us children who are pretty extroverted and love, but they just know that when people come over, it means there's kids to play with and new friends to make, and they make friends very easily. And that's a joy to me. Like, I get to see the fruit of hospitality right now in my own children, and their approach to life and friendship.
So beautiful. So what inspired you to write this new book, the cookbook, but it's also like a hospitality guide? What inspired you to write this book? And what was your vision with that? And I know it's tied to your adoption, like you can kind of go back into that too, right? So will you share that with our listeners?
Yep. So way back in 2019, Chris and I we had already adopted Toby, and we thought we could never adopt again. It was never going to be possible. We didn't know how we could ever afford another adoption. And his birth parents called us to let us know they were expecting again. And we said yes, and we were so excited, but we had no idea how we were going to pay for it. And I was like, well, maybe people always want my recipes, because I'd written a lot about food and hospitality in my book. I had a blog. I would share recipes. It was very popular. My friends always wanted a cookbook. I was like, what if I just did a cookbook, and then anyone who donates to a fundraiser gets a free e-cookbook? So I started working on that, and then the baby passed away at 16 weeks. And so the birth parents lost the baby. We lost the baby. Like we loved the baby. But that for us was like, okay, no, we want our son to have a sibling. We want to adopt another baby. We're not done. And we had this idea for the cookbook. So we went ahead and we're working with a different agency, and I wrote the e-cookbook, launched it to help us fund it. And so that I knew I'm a writer. So I was like, well, I'll write about hospitality. I'll give recipes. And it was a huge success. It not only allowed us to adopt our second son, Beckett, but when Beckett was just 4 weeks old, we had just returned from a month-long stay in Texas in a NICU because he was born premature. We found out that our oldest son's birth parents were expecting again, and they wanted us to adopt. So that was like 6 days after we got back from the NICU in Texas. And I was like, well, let's dust off that cookbook because we got to do another adoption. And even more people got it. But it was a really popular cookbook with, my small group of Instagram followers. And everyone was like, would you please bring it out in hardback? Would you do this? But that was in the middle of COVID, and I had all these babies, and my dad was dying, and my mom was declining with Alzheimer's, and there was just no way to think about turning it into an actual cookbook. Last year I had some time and ability to do it, and Emmaus Road was really excited to publish it. But we didn't just republish the digital cookbook. We added, there's 50% more recipes, there's more essays, there's almost all new pictures. It's beautiful. It's like my little cookbook died and went to heaven and got transfigured. So and so now it's fun to share it with people lots of people, of course, who bought the digital version are like, thank God we have a hardback.
I bet.
People. But it's also fun now to get to share it with so many people who were not following me back then and didn't know anything about the fundraiser. And I highly recommend having a cookbook of your recipes. It makes it so much easier when you go to plan what's for dinner. Like, where's my recipe? And you're not like looking for it on the phone or digging through files. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it turned out beautiful, Emily. Everything about it is just lovely. The recipes, even if cocktail recipes, I was really excited about that. I've made a couple of those. And I just absolutely love the hospitality. What's kept kept me, and we'll talk about this in a minute here, but really, so I love to be hosting and hospitable in my early married life and in our earlier years of having kids. And the more kids I had, the more messy my house became, and my life just felt crazy. And so I stopped hosting very often because I had this fear of, oh, my house isn't right. I feel out of control. And I look back on those years where I kept my doors more closed just because of my own insecurity of what my house state was at the time. And I've regretted it so much through the years that I was not as hospitable. And your book has really revived in me the desire that I do have to be hospitable. And reading your essays on hospitality and just looking through the book has just reignited that. And I'm so thankful. And and it's been you speaking into that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to, invite people into your mess, all the better. I'm like, okay. So I have this regret for letting those block my relationships over the years. So I'm just so thankful for your book being available to speak to so many of us who have these obstacles that we have let come into our place.
Well, that's what I wanted it to be. Like it's really a cookbook in the service of hospitality. And there's recipes that are easy to cook for a crowd. They're great for your family, but they're easy to cook when you're like dealing with a toddler and a baby's crying and your husband's looking for, his socks, whatever's going on. You can do it. But there's also a lot of practical guidance. How clean does your house have to be? How do you think about feeding other people's children? How do you approach feeding your own children? What do you do when there's real limits? Like, because we all go through seasons where there are limits on how much we can host. And so thinking even in those seasons, well, God said, be hospitable, not be hospitable when it's convenient or easy. So how in this season, with the limits that I do have on me, can I find ways to still exercise hospitality, even if it's meaning I'm organizing something outside of my house or I'm organizing simple inside my house. So it really is a cookbook in the service of hospitality and community.
It really is.
Yes, so many silly ideas about perfectionism. And
I know.
Nothing is perfect. If it's really perfect, then it's not perfect because nobody feels at home and they all feel guilty about their own lives. And
well, I have found too, like actually the friends and families' houses that we attend, that they are being hospitable and their house is normal. It doesn't look, I'm entering into like a museum that's everything is so perfect. When I'm entering into the normal, then I think, okay, I could invite you into my normal then. But when I go somewhere that everything is over the top perfect, then I'm like, okay, oh gosh, I could never, So I just love if everyone just has this permission to just be yourself, just welcome each other in and love each other where we're at, in life. Because that's what it's about, not judging.
Without judging. And sometimes we have a beautiful old house that we're restoring. And I was like, oh, I don't want it to be too nice because then what if people don't invite me in? But I think it's just best to just consider that everybody wants to be invited. The people, because my favorite places that I go are places where the furniture is falling apart.
Exactly.
Or it's really, really small, or there's stains from you're not quite sure what happened on the ceiling. You're like, did spaghetti explode while they were canning? We don't know. Like, those are the best places, and those are my dearest friends. It's not about the house. Like, it's lovely when a home is welcoming and beautiful, and there's a place to sit. And, I have little boys that are using the bathroom, and my bathroom is always a little terrifying. So I try to make sure the bathroom I don't know what goes on in there when they're going to the bathroom. I have no idea. But it's just assume that everybody has that chaos in their house, even if you don't see it right when you go over, and that everybody wants a place. Everyone wants to be invited. They might not come, but everybody always wants to be invited.
That's so true.
No one's mad when they get invited to something. Like, how dare they invite me?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's like, how would they not invite me? When
exactly.
You didn't want to go. I know, but I wanted to be invited.
Yeah, yeah.
People want to be invited.
Yeah, I think that does really give people more of an invitation to the freedom of just doing it, just doing it.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things that you have in your new book is practical hospitality, and it's working with what you have. And I think that also plays into the, the obstacles or fear that people might have. And are you comfortable like sharing of some of those with the like ways you can still be hospitable in different times of life? Or like one of the things was even like, having something at church, for example, that you can still be hospitable. Are you comfortable talking on some of that out of the book?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, I think so. I've gone through some serious renovations of houses. I've had seasons where I have little teeny babies, and like I said, you're trying to figure out what are my limitations? How do I practice hospitality within those limitations? It may be if you are, if you have a really small house and you've got a big family and there's not a lot of room to have another family over, you can invite a single person over. You can invite an elderly person over. You can invite, I think that's one of the problems in the church days. We often sort of cloister off into our little demographic, and families are with families and single people with single people, and the elderly are with the elderly. And that's a recipe for loneliness too, because we really need each other. We need the wisdom of the elderly. We need the help of single people. They need the time and exposure to marriages besides their families. So taking that limitation of a small house as an opportunity to grow in friendship with people who are in a different season of life than you is a huge blessing. You might have construction going on in your home. You might have a spouse who's immunocompromised and you can't bring a lot of people into the house, but you can plan a picnic at the park. You can entertain more in the summer, than you do in the winter, when it's a backyard barbecue. If the budget is tight, one of my favorite things we did after college when we were all dirt poor, we were working for pennies on Capitol Hill, and I was cleaning houses to, just to be able to pay the mortgage on top of my job. We would have poverty parties,
Oh,
and everybody had to bring something that couldn't cost more than $5. We had to
oh,
go to the store and get something that cost $5, and would have a poverty party. And I'm sure the ingredients of what we brought was I would probably have a hard time with now, but there are ways to find, it was lots of Oreos and Doritos, but we would get crackers, or someone would bring a thing of cheese they got for $5, cheap wine. And it was so much fun. Like it was such a blessing to all of us in a season where there was no money.
I love that.
Yeah, organizing a potluck at church. If you have friends who have a lot of, here in Steubenville, if I invite 3 families over, that might be 21 kids. And so if you want to organize something with multiple large families and you don't have the room at your house, see if you can use the church basement. Can you do soup supper after stations where everyone brings a different pot of soup to this church basement and eats it? Even making meals for moms, like that is such an act of hospitality. When someone has had a new baby, when someone is sick, like there are always ways to be caring for other people and exercising hospitality, even when things are tight.
Yeah, I love that. So how about now we talk a little bit about how this connects, how being hospitable connects to our faith, our Catholic faith.
Well, it starts with the Eucharist, and that's what the Catholic table really is about. That, as Catholics, we have this wonderful understanding that food is a sign, it's a natural sign of a supernatural reality, and that is the Eucharist. And so every natural truth about food, how it nourishes us and strengthens us and heals us and draws us together into a community, points towards the Eucharist that truly does strengthen us and heal us and nourish us and form us into the body of Christ. And so when we are living a Catholic life, our natural life is always going to be helping us understand the supernatural life to which we're called and strengthening that supernatural life. And hospitality is part of that. Like that is, God calls us to practice hospitality, not just because it's an act of kindness, not just because it's a way of welcoming people, but because it is the best sign he has of what the life to come is. That's the vision we're given in Revelation. That's the vision we're given in Isaiah, that heaven is a feast. It is a banquet. It is everybody you love sitting down together and rejoicing together and praising Christ together. And so in this life, one of the best ways that we get a foretaste of what heaven is to practice hospitality. It's to let people in and love them, and to also be participating in communion. God is a communion of three persons. He's the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit looking, they're sharing everything they have and are with each other. And we do that with hospitality when we let someone into our mess, into the craziness, into the stress, and look at them and love them, and friendship grows. We are getting a taste of what it's going to be like when we have the beatific vision in heaven. And so it's living the life we're made for. It's living the Eucharistic life. It's living an anticipatory life of heaven. It's living a life of communion.
So beautiful. Oh my goodness. Wow. Perfectly beautiful. And I hear you say that and I just think, oh my goodness, yes, I want to invite all of my friends and family over to just be together and journey. And really that's what, our life here on earth is. We're meant to help each other get to heaven. We're on the journey. And it is so fitting then that we would enjoy one another's company around the table together, enjoying each other, leading each other on. And the other thing that I imagine that you have really found, and we're still blessed to have many great families and people of all different demographics in our life, even though we're not, we do host, we do host from time to time. It's just not as much as I would like. But, we can still journey with people together to heaven, even if we're not inviting them into our home. But the more that we do, the more we're living life together, and we have these people on the journey. It's like our village, right? That they're right there. And like you had spoke so beautifully earlier about, the friends of your mom, that they're going to see her yet and visit her, and how, those seeds were planted so long ago. And like you said, it's because they were inviting them into life on the journey. And then you're just escorting each other to heaven then together, which is just such a beautiful thing.
No, and there is, hospitality can be hard, even for people who really love it, people who want to do it. It is a challenging thing, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more you see it modeled, the more you feel capable of doing it. And so when I grew up watching it, and I feel like, all right, well, I'm going to keep inviting other people over, and eventually they're going to get this idea that it's okay to let me into their house when it's a mess. It's okay to let me into their house when God knows what the 4-year-old just did all over the bathroom floor. It's like, it's okay. And then you do it, and you do it again, and you do it again. And then it becomes second nature. It's second nature to my children. I'm going to shift my position here. We were talking earlier, we have a new studio upstairs that's supposed to work for interviews, but the internet is not working up there.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to have your studio soon.
Perched in a terrible position. But my kids, it's a natural thing to them. They're like, welcome into our home. And, they'll have to learn how to juggle schedules and people and timing and those sorts of things. But already the habit of being kind to people and gracious to people and letting people into their lives is second nature to them. Yeah. And so, the earlier you start, the better you'll get.
Yeah, true. So do you have friends that are somewhat equally as hospitable? Maybe they don't have to be equally hospitable, but do you find in your circle of friends that you are welcoming into your home, into your family, that it is encouraging them also to be hospitable back? Does that make sense?
Yes. So our very best friends are great. Like the couple we do our podcast with. We had our podcast visitation sessions, the Stapletons. Kate is extremely hospitable. It's a wonderful. I love going over to her house. She makes great pizza, so I was trying to get great pizza. And then we have other friends who they tend to come over here more because we have the bigger house, and so our house is able to accommodate a lot of families all at once. But what they will do is that they are so good about helping. They're doing the dishes, they're sweeping the floor, they're going and corralling the kids. And everyone doesn't have to be inviting people over all the time, but there's a type of hospitality. My friends exercise hospitality even when they're here. They're helping me get the dinner on. If there's new people coming, they might come a little bit earlier to lay some stuff out. They know where stuff is. And so there's that easy familiarity in my house, and they're able to help me host, which is another way of, what your limits are. Like you may have a friend who hosts all the time and you are not up to it, or you don't have the space for it. But then you can be the friend who goes and says, I'll sweep your floors. I'll do the dishes afterwards. Like, let me go switch over your laundry for you so that, this is taken care of. And I think that's been a real gift to us.
Oh, I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up because also, so it's them investing, like they're being hospitable in that way. And I love that it also just to let them do that, to let them love on you in that way, because we can so quick be like, oh no, I got it. But that you're like, oh, come on in. Yeah, help me stir that pot. Help me hold this baby. Help me whatever, like sweep the floors. I love that there's that comfortability there too, to let them be part of the serving process, really, to serve one another is awesome.
Because nobody can do it all. Like
Right?
nobody can do it all. And we host a lot. Like we kind of we bought a house that came with a name. The name is Visitation House, So
Aw.
like there's sort of an obligation with this size of house that we invite the preschool over. We'll have the school picnic here. We'll do those things. But that's only made possible by other people working alongside us. And that is a huge gift. And it just involves everyone in the process.
It does.
Let's put on a party. It's
Yeah.
fun.
So now I'm intrigued because you just mentioned the Visitation House, and your podcast with your husband and your friends is the Visitation series, right?
Visitation sessions.
Sessions, but sorry, Visitation sessions.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's with the visitation then? Like, because I'm going to assume that this is going to tie in then with your hospitality, or
So
no?
we named
Or?
it after the house. So the house was already had its name. It was built as a private residence over like 125 years ago, but first nuns lived here, and then a group of priests lived here for like 50 years, and then nuns lived here again, and it was named by somewhere along either the early nuns or the early priests. It was named Visitation House, and it would welcome priests and religious from all over the country who wanted to come to Steubenville and learn more about the Charismatic Renewal or Franciscan University, like in the early days of Father Mike Scanlon. And it just kept the name. So
cool.
Our friends had bought it. They owned it for a few years, decided that they were not up to restoring an old house. They wanted to live out in the country, and they asked us if we wanted to buy it. So we've kept the name. And then for the podcast, we just decided that we loved the idea because our friends are musicians and sessions,
fun.
because you bring different people in, you have different conversations.
Yeah.
And so it happens
fitting.
at Visitation House. So it's visitation sessions. What are we talking about this week? Who's coming to talk with us? What do we?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So it's sort of a riff on the more artistic musical idea.
Oh, I love it.
The
And
idea of the visitation.
yeah, and it's still just really so fitting for you that you are so hospitable for people to visit you in your house and spend time with you.
It
Oh,
actually
it's
makes
awesome.
it wonderful because our podcast guests sometimes we do guests like once a month. But if they're local, they come with their whole family, and their kids and wives play with the other kids downstairs while we record upstairs.
Oh my goodness, so cool.
Or they'll come and stay with us. We've had guests who've driven out halfway across the country to stay with us, and we can put them up. It's when, this house is a bigger house than our little family of 5 needs. And so when we were offered the chance to buy it, it kind of felt like an offering from God to say, hey, I have, this is going to be a house that comes with a mission, and you're going to have to put it to use at the service of the church. And this is one of the ways that we're able to do that. We're able to and selfishly, so many of my friends are starting to send kids to Franciscan University. And so it's great because we're like, your whole family of 10 can stay here. No problem. Come
That
visit
is
me.
awesome.
And yeah, it's just a place that we can use to serve our friends who have, as you know, when you have a lot of kids, it can be hard to travel. You don't have a lot of friends who can open up their houses to you.
Yeah.
And we can easily be like, 7 kids, that's nothing. Come on over. And
I love it.
Yeah. And that's, again, we host and practice hospitality on a level that most people are not going to and do not have to. But it's kind of by showing how we do that I hope people can find their own ways to live that call within their own circumstances and their own houses.
Oh, I love that. It truly, you are inspiring, Emily. And I'm grateful that the Lord is working through you and that you have been open to letting that flow and ooze out of you, this hospitality, and just such a great model and example for the rest of us to feel like, okay, we can do this. And Oh, thank you so much. And you write on so many amazing topics that you have, I'm sure, like a crazy huge archive, I'm sure, because I've read different things of yours through the years, and I know you're continuing to write. So I'm just very thankful. The Lord uses you in just tremendous ways, and ultimately it's to help us grow closer to Him. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for that. So I want to let people know that they can find you. Your website is Emily Stimpson Chapman.
Yep.
And so is that the best place to find almost all of your stuff?
You can find everything there. You can find, I write a weekly newsletter for Substack, and that's sort of the backbone of my writing these days. So you can find that. You can find the podcast. You can invite me to speak, find out where I'll be speaking. You can buy my books. So we sell my books there. You can buy the cookbook there. And yeah, it's just a fun sort of catch-all at this point for all the different things that I have going on.
Awesome. Well, I will include that in the show notes. And again, to our listeners, it is Emily's name, EmilyStimpsonChapman.com. So I encourage you to go there. And said Emily has a wealth of knowledge. Her writing, she has writings on just about everything that is just so, you're so wise and just so generous in your writing. So thank you.
In practice, thank you. Sometimes I'm a redhead. So there's...
Well, this has been so much fun, Emily. I'm grateful for your time. Do you have any parting encouragement that you want to encourage? Because you've been so encouraging and inspirational to me. I cannot wait to become more hospitable. But do you have any parting advice for our listeners?
I just think when we look around us right now, the world is struggling, and people are desperately lonely, and they're lost, and they don't have the kind of thick community that they need to live their marriages well and walk through grief together and raise their kids. It needs, your kids need so much more than you and your husband, or even just you and your husband and the grandparents. They need other faithful families walking besides them, showing them different models of how we live the Christian life, encouraging them during the seasons when they don't want to listen to their parents. There've been actually a lot of studies done on this, and one of the primary things that keeps kids Catholic is that kind of thick community where they have other mother figures and father figures in their life who are part of their family, community. And so if we want that, if we want to start healing this world, if we want to have strong families, if we want our kids to grow up and have great friends and strong role models, we've got to let people in and see our messy house and taste our imperfect cooking or eat takeout pizza with us. We have to not just go home and turn on the television or come back from the soccer game and collapse. We have to intentionally choose to make community happen. And we are all so busy, so that it really does have to be an intentional choice. I have to choose community over other things that sound more appealing in the moment, but are not going to come visit me in the hospital when my husband is dying or when I have Alzheimer's disease.
Amen. That's the invitation, Living Lit family, for us to practice hospitality and invite our loved ones, our families, our friends, our new family and friends that we will come across, and invite them to our table, into our homes, so we can grow closer to the Lord together. So friends and family, thank you so much for listening today. It's been just a joy to introduce you to Emily. Her cookbook, Around the Catholic Table, is available through the St. Paul Center and also at her website, which we will post in the show notes. And I'm just excited to hear too, friends and family, share your stories with us of how you are becoming more hospitable and practicing hospitality, and how your hearts are just growing at the same time. Thanks for being here today, friends.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share Living Lit, and reach out with topics you'd like tackled at livinglit@sfcatholic.org. And be the light, shine the light, share the light, and live lit.